When November 5th comes every year, it's a very quiet day at our house. Most years it debilitates me, but I get through. We have a little park across the street where we live, and we would release a balloon in his honor. We could never forget Dev. Devin was charming. He was charismatic. And I remember the night when he was injured, he'd been in my office earlier that day, and we were going on a new program in the emergency department, and I was so sure that I wasn't going to be able to do it. He came in my office, put his arms around me and said, "Mom, you're going to do great." That was Devin. The phone rang at 11:20 at night, and Travis, Devin's best friend, was on the phone, panicked. He said, "Devin's been hit. We called an ambulance." Devin had never been involved in any physical confrontations with others. Upon arriving at the foothills, I was told that the nurse would transfer me to the family room. The family room is a private waiting room where we take families of critically ill patients to discuss their care. And I said, no, I didn't need to go to the family room. And she goes, "Yes, you do." And the first person to see me was an emergency physician. He explained that Devin had received one single punch. And he said, "Karen, I don't think your son will survive this injury." And he left. And I was alone in that room. The next thing I remember was Brian entering that room. And I had to find the words to tell my husband that our son was going to die. And he collapsed in that family room. I'd never seen Brian cry. I found it so unknown to me how to help him. I didn't know how we would survive. The next morning, Dr. Doig sat us down and said the words that we didn't want to hear. Devin had no chance of survival. You need to discontinue life support. There are no words. There is still no words. I thought maybe I might come up with some over the years, but I haven't. We arrived home, not sure what to do. I remember Brian and I walked in the house and sat down on the couch and looked at each other and went, "So now what?" And it was later that evening that I received a phone call, which was my first contact with VAST. And even 20 years later, I still feel the settling of something inside of me. The voice was soft. It was filled with compassion, empathy, concern. She asked if we would like someone from VAST come to our home. I don't remember a lot about that night, but what I do remember is the young girl, and she listened. And I cried. And she put her arm around me for hours and just listened. They were my link to Devin's last moments alive. VAST remained a very constant in our lives for the next, not just months, for years. They were able to be our liaison with the homicide department, with prosecutors. They were always helping Brian and I understand what's coming next. I was immediately put in touch with the court support coordinator. And that was when the second guardian angel from VAST entered my life. We received a notice that the preliminary hearing was canceled. I don't know the legal system. I've had no interactions with the legal system. I was sure the case was jeopardized. But I received a phone call to say this is not unusual. This is normal and routine in the legal system. So over the next year, my life was in shambles. We were trying to go to work. We were trying to be normal. We tried too hard to be normal because we had to learn It's not normal. 4 months later, when I did have to take the stand, Vast was at my side. They met us at the courthouse. They stayed with us. I don't even know if there's a word to explain the days we spent at trial. When I went up to testify, the coordinator sat in the first row and she said, "Just watch me." It was a surreal experience. The defense attorney, he had me crying in a moment. All he asked me was how much Devin weighed. And I was devastated because I didn't know. But Vast again, she just shook her head and said, "You're doing fine." They rolled out a big TV screen. And I watched my son's last moments alive. The only person to take the stand in defense was the accused. He was found guilty of manslaughter. The courtroom was pandemonium. It was like the movies. People were yelling at each other from across. His mother was screaming, and he was on the floor crying, "Don't take me, don't take me." And it reminded me of Brian in that family room the night Devin was injured, crying on the floor. I felt bad. I didn't want to. He'd killed my son. During the trial, we had never faced the media. They would always take us out the back door. But then we were told by the VAST coordinators that after the sentencing, we would have to face the media. And I was so tired. I just wanted it to be over. They offered that they would make a statement for us. They stood beside us. Someone was on one side of me, another VAST was on the other, and that's all I could think of was them holding me up. And that's what they did. They held us up. In 2022, it was 20 years since Devin had been gone. And at noon, we let the balloons go in Devin's memory. The lucky people are the ones maybe that have never had to rely on VAST. But when your family is broken and tragedy is struck, they're there.